It is the Anfield Wrap. I've got Paul Senior, John Gibbons, Ian Ryan and Phil Blundell all with me right now. John, bit of brass later.
Yeah,
Where are you playing?
I'm playing at the Christian Lawyers. You like that one, don't you?
That's a belt of the one in St.
St. Nicholas Church, which is if people of the city, but even the visitor city, will have seen it. It's right on the waterfront. It's the it was the Seafarers Church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the church for the lads on the boats. Still going strong. I do the Christian Lawyers carol service.
It's a belter. It's a strong hour and a half as well. You've got to be informed.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Hoping to put myself a bit more together by 5 o'clock. But yeah, no, looking forward to it.
Excellent
they
stuff.
Sing well, the Christian Lawyers.
Yeah, the year I went, they were fully committed.
Oh yeah, they hark the herald.
They very much do hark the herald. This is the Anfield Wrap in association with RedsBet. They're partnering with us for the whole of 2018. Not much more left, lads, but they are partnering with us for the whole of 2018 and hopefully 2019 as well. But we'll come on to that. They give half of your losses, their profits, to Liverpool supporter-related causes, and we were very pleased to do lots of work with them across the last couple of weeks. It's been the absolute business. So thank you very much to them. RedsBet.com if you're interested in that sort of thing, and no worries if you're not. BeGambleAware, BeGambleAware.org for that. Our order of events: we're going to talk about Liverpool versus Manchester United. We're going to talk about the draw, and then we're going to talk about the wider situation in the league table. So let's start. Liverpool 3, Manchester United 1, and Phil Blundell, the way the game finished and the way the game started was all about Liverpool's dominance.
Yeah, what a day. They were atrocious, and it's so pleasurable to go and watch Liverpool against Manchester United and see Manchester United being terrible. They were a mess. As brilliant as we were, they were just as bad. And I don't want to sound like I'm taking stuff away from us here, but they were terrible. I think Cardiff were more of a challenge this season than they were yesterday. They came with no real idea of what they wanted to do. I don't know what they were trying to do, but Liverpool were absolutely fantastic yesterday.
There were some frustrations through the match here, and I'd say those frustrations were probably more scoreboard orientated than performance orientated. We could see Liverpool were on top. It was annoying when it was 0-0. It was then annoying when it was only 1-0. It was then hugely annoying for it to go 1-1 in the manner in which it did. And then that was a long sort of period, but all the way through, it was the Manchester United that Manchester United supporters told us we were going to get, and it was the Liverpool that we've began to see in the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo kind of Phil's thoughts there. They look like a team that are really, really struggling. I think from Liverpool's point of view, it's hard to remember a time when there's been such a gap between the two sides. I was thinking about it this morning. I think it might be 1990, the last time you've seen such a huge gulf. Obviously, we win the league that season. They finished kind of 13th, 14th, and there's over 30 points difference between the two, and you can easily see that amount being kind of equalled or kind of bettered this season. But I think from our point of view, you're right to reference it did get a little bit frustrating. You know, there's times where you think, will it actually happen? But this Liverpool team now, it doesn't panic. It doesn't panic at all, and I think one of the things that struck me is I think the manager said to the lads, regardless of the results, make this one of the most intense 90 minutes that these have faced all season. I want each and every one of them coming off and saying to their mate, wow, that was unreal. We couldn't live with that. And there was a period of time, I think around on 25, 30, we just taken the lead, and I think Ashley Young just kicks it out of touch, just for a breather. They were absolutely shattered. Now, they get a little bit of a bounce from the Alisson mistake, and for 15 minutes or so, it's a little bit more competitive, but not to the point where you felt Liverpool were not going to go on and win that football match.
John?
I was a little bit worried we weren't going to win just because it's sort of the later it gets, and I think we don't react brilliantly to that goal, and that's kind of a little bit frustrating in that you see, I think part of the problem was that it was a little bit too easy, and then I think they scored out of nowhere, and I think we were just a bit flat for the rest of the first half, and that was a bit frustrating really, because you saw, for example, City the day before, you know, they're finding it easy, the 2-0, Everton go pull it back to 2-1 and they just score straight away. That's sort of how they dealt with it, and you can't always do that obviously, but I think they were interesting, United. I think I could sort of see what they were trying to do. I slightly disagree with Phil. I think they just sort of gave up on midfield really, so they were obviously, you know, it was 5 at the back and trying to frustrate there, but to be fair to the goal they scored, they've got men in the box, haven't they? So I think there's Lukaku's crossing it, and there's 3 in the box. So I think they were just basically giving up on midfield, and they were going to say defend, and then if we get a chance to attack, sort of get in there and see what can happen. And you know, it works for them in an extent when they kind of score. I think Liverpool are just better than them. So I think, you know, you can talk about game plans and things like that, and I think Liverpool are just better. I was trying to figure out looking at them, whether they're underachieving or whether the players aren't that good, and I think it's actually the latter. I don't think the players are particularly. I think a few of them are overrated, to be honest with you. So I feel a little bit sorry for the manager in that regard, because everyone's just saying he should be getting more out of them, and I'm not sure there's a hell of a lot more there to get. Of course, he's bought some of them, so you get into that situation. But from a Liverpool point of view, I thought, you know, as you say, started excellent, really good value for the goal, and then, you know, to kind of see it out the way they did. So to go from 2-1 to 3-1, I think was impressive in the way they did that. And they just look a proper football team, and we've got a nice break now to Friday, go again. But, you know, I thought 1-11 they were excellent.
Yeah, I agree with most of what's been said, I suppose. I think tactically United, and not much has been said about it, but I think he was very aware that Liverpool get a lot of joy. I think firstly, I think he thought Salah was going to play right, and it was going to be Mane left, and I think he's gone 5 at the back, so there's 2 on the pair of them, and I think Klopp's done them by putting Salah through the middle. Mane right, and I think he's thought that midfield can sit in and try and cope with Firmino dropping in the hole, and we've just pulled them apart from there. That's the poorest United side I've seen in a long time. But I feel like a lot of the sort of post-match coverage has been about what Manchester United did and not what Liverpool did, and I don't think it's right, really, because I think no matter what, the form book goes out the window, and all them quotes exist for a reason in these fixtures, because historically it does. And Liverpool go and they turn up, and they put Manchester United to the sword. They're constantly in control, and I think Liverpool deserve a bit more credit from the game than they get. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think our own fan base is praising them, but a lot of the questions in the sort of mainstream media has been around, well, what did Manchester United do wrong? What did Manchester United do? Well, Manchester United got played off the park by a better football team, and that's what it was. It's not, Manchester United can't give their level of performance because we don't allow that. And there needs to be a bit more coverage of that, because I feel like it's almost, I understand Manchester United are a huge football club and they're sort of 19 points behind the leader, which happens to be their greatest rival. But where's Liverpool's credit in this? Because Liverpool were excellent. We dominated midfield. We were much better in defence. And then obviously we've got a great attack. I think the focus should be on that.
No, I agree with that, Paul. I think from the media point of view, the biggest story is the collapse of Manchester United, isn't it? So I think that's where you get the angle of it's all about United. And I think they look like a side now that there's very few of them pulling in the direction of the manager. He looks like he's lost a lot of that squad, a lot of that team. You know, you can probably count on one hand the amount of players who walked off that pitch and I'd probably look like they're giving their all. You know, you're thinking maybe the goalie, obviously the goalie plays well. Ashley Young gives everything. Eric Bailly does okay considering he's called upon. He's thinking, fucking hell, Chris Smalling, I could do without this. But he comes in and does okay. But then after that, you're thinking, God, this is a team that finished second last year. And to fall apart so dramatically I think it surprised everyone. You knew they weren't going to challenge, but to fall away so dramatically is kind of big. And I think you're right to kind of reference how good Liverpool were, though. I mean, but it's almost like what we come to expect now. I mean, this side it's a phenomenal football team. It's a phenomenal football side, and the manager deserves great credit. Again, he's been able to rotate and bring players in, and I think, you know, we see the kind of impact that Fabinho has in the midfield, who again I thought was tremendous. And I think a lot of credit has to go to someone like Fabinho, because he's had that game recently against another big team in Arsenal where he takes an awful lot of stick for that performance. Some of it was fair, some of it was unwarranted, but yesterday he was probably the one, certainly kind of first half, him and Mane, who I thought stood out.
I think the midfield was a bit better set up yesterday than that Arsenal game where he struggled, though. I think like Milner and Ronaldo are both very good players, but I think you struggle when the two of them play together. So when you put Keita in instead of Milner, even if it was Keita instead of Ronaldo, it's not necessarily a Milner thing. I just think it's a bit more. He's got better options with the ball, I think.
He also has a 2 rather than...
Yeah,
it was 4-2-3-1 yesterday with
exactly,
Keita off the left rather than it being 4-3-3, which is what it was in Arsenal.
It was set up better to get a bit more out of him. There was a bit more movement in front from the two of them, I thought, as opposed to as in they were in front of him as opposed to at the side of him, and then in front of him is the front three were miles away from him, whereas there was a link between the whole thing yesterday, and it just felt a bit like it worked a lot better.
It felt like a midfield that manager's built. They're all his own players, and I'm not sure, but it feels like, is that the first time we've seen them three?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
together, and it sort of the physical attributes were telling. You know, everything that you've ever been told that Jurgen Klopp
Did they
looks
play
for.
together in that Chelsea League Cup game? I think they might have done.
I'm not sure, but it looked like everything you were told that Jurgen Klopp wants from a midfield, that they had all of that, and they were. my concern was that our midfield could have been bullied by Herrera and your Fellaini's and stuff like that in the world. It was completely the other way around. With Van Dijk as in support, obviously, every time the ball went in the air, either Fabinho won it or Van Dijk won it, or the two of them would go together. Anytime Lukaku tried to get the ball into feet and try and shrug someone off, Fabinho could stand up to that. Van Dijk could stand up to that. Wijnaldum, he was almost shaping him into channels that he didn't want to run into. It was brilliant, and it makes me wonder if that's the midfield he's aiming towards long term. And I don't think it's anyone would have sort of guessed in terms of a dynamic, but it looks tasty.
It's funny to think, like a month ago, everyone was criticising the midfield and criticising Klopp for sticking up for them. And now
he's able to make two changes from a side that dominates against Napoli, freshen the midfield up, put those lads back out, and then watch them flourish.
He's got great options, hasn't he? And I think we didn't even have Milner fit, and he's still able to largely leave Henderson on the bench. He's still able to do something with Shaqiri and kind of change the midfield a little bit, and he's got great options there. And I think it's a real big performance for Fabinho and Keita, because I think they have played well already this season, but there's always been a little bit of the opposition or blah blah blah, or it was a nice game for them because, whereas I think this is Liverpool Man United at home, and it's playing against the midfielders that Paul's talking about, who will leave a challenge in, who are prepared to get kind of physical if it's not going their way. And I think both of them, well, all three of them, but I'm talking about the sort of new lads a bit more here, should be sort of proud of what they did and feel like I hope they feel like proper Liverpool players now after that, because they should do. Yeah.
I think on the midfield, I think it very much is the midfield that he's working towards, and I said something to him after the Bournemouth game, because I think if you look at the balance looks really good with those three. I mean, you've got Gini and you've got Fabinho there offering protection, but there's a lot more to their game than just that. I mean, to have a guy in Fabinho who's been recognised as a defensive midfielder, but can step forward 20 yards further up the pitch and then deliver the kind of pass and execute it the way he does for the Mane goal is superb. And then you've got Keita, who I think at times was maybe a little bit sloppy in possession. He gave it away once or twice, but in terms of being able to go past the player and open up space, you can see there's been times this season where Liverpool have missed that, and he delivers that on several occasions where United's players can't live with him. They can't live with that little turn of pace, and even from a standing start, he's got it. So in terms of balance, that midfield three is one to be excited about at the minute.
Do you know, I think it's allowed by Van Dijk though. Fabinho can go from that number 6 position and become that sort of box to box midfielder and drive at defences. And I was really impressed with. He had that little bit of extra in his game, which I think people's perception of Fabinho was that he was going to be slightly more limited than Henderson on the ball, but it's the other way. He's got more about him. Like he can go round lads really easy, in and around the box. He's tasty 1 and 2 touch. But I think the key to it all is the fact that he knows he's allowed to go from what's behind him.
Do you think it's that, Paul? But do you think it's also, if you look at when he tends to do it, it's like the point in the game where in both halves where the opposition are like, we're just holding out here. I think there's a real sort of thing there where it's as though, and I think you've seen it from Liverpool sides, maybe not quite as marked, but I think we've been seeing it a lot, sort of like a lot of what Liverpool do in the last 15 minutes of the first half, a lot of what they do after about 60-65 in the second half at the minute is almost like all you're doing now is hanging on for dear life. So we can be a little bit more, we can go a little bit further because we know that you've got no counter punch.
Well, this is it. There's loads of boxing sayings that seem to be summing Liverpool up at the moment, because Liverpool are literally putting teams on the ropes and just go and keep on going until that sort of knockout punch is landed. And there was times yesterday where Fabinho, as you say, sort of goes, right, I can go and join in now and throw some more digs at these, because we are allowed. You've got Robertson further forward, you've got Klein further forward. We're now stepping the midfield up, as well as the front three, as well as Wijnaldum in and around the box. And it's just that swell of pressure that makes most sides can't handle it, and Manchester United certainly couldn't handle it yesterday. In that first 20-25 minutes, I mean, I don't think you've seen a top side, put so much pressure, look so much better on another top 6 side in a very, very long time.
John, they just couldn't get out. I think both in that period, but then in the second half, that was the thing that when I was watching it, I was just like, they're never going to get out here. I mean, when they do have the foray forward, to be fair to them, they score from it. They're quite clinical in how rubbish they are. But I was you just cannot build any degree of a bridgehead, and they don't do it again until it goes 2-1. They have the little flourish where there's the great covering header from Robertson, but that's just a mad counter attack. What I mean is they couldn't alleviate themselves for 5 minutes in that second 45.
No, I sort of saw the problems with Lukaku a little bit yesterday, and I think people are maybe sometimes a little bit harsh on him considering the goals he gets, but he's just not really an outball for them at all. He's not, for the size of him, he's not like, well, knock it up to him, he'll run you a channel, he'll load it up for a bit and he'll get players up. He's just sort of not that sort of player really, which is fine to an extent, if you're just saying, well, he's more of a kind of a penalty box striker, I guess, but they weren't able to kind of get it up to him in a kind of meaningful way, really. I thought we were harrying them. I thought we were kind of in the faces. I thought we were blocking passing lanes, and they just couldn't seem to cope with it, really. There's, one of the lads mentioned before about Ashley Young just kicking it out. There was a few, wasn't there, where they just sort of end up just passing it out of play because they sort of they look chocker, and I think that was really good to see, really. And I think the managers talked about the pace of Robertson, watching him, but it's all of them, isn't it? It must feel like, I know we're going hard on the analogies this morning, but I don't know, like when a snake just suffocates someone and they just all wrap around you, and I think that's what it's like watching this Liverpool team.
Coming, John, I'll be honest.
Been thinking a lot about it. Snakes, just kind of wrap around him, and suddenly it's all around you, and it suffocates you. I think that's sort of what this Liverpool team does, but I don't know, maybe I'm still drunk.
I want to talk about the full-backs, and I want to start with, I want to talk about some shaking it up, actually, Phil, but there's other reasons to do that. So last season, for instance, when we go to Old Trafford, United play Bailly at centre-half, Young at left-back, and he gets Bailly back in the side. But Young does a good job on Salah. It's fair to say Young plays Salah pretty much as well as anybody, but it's not just Young, it's what they do around that area of the pitch. The manager throws maybe a little bit of a Mickey in after he sees United's team maybe beforehand. And I think that they've also gone with both Dalot and Darmian to try to counter Mane and Robertson. But the other thing I think moving Mane does is it gives Nathaniel Klein a bit more help. It gives him a player he's used to in front of him. It's a bit 16-17, but it means everyone's feeling back in the zone of, right, I know where I am. And I thought, before we get on to those attacking lads, I thought that Klein plays just about as well as could plausibly be expected of him yesterday. I mean, in a sense that he's almost worth, if I was doing the match ratings, he's almost worth 10 out of 10, in that I don't see how he does any more than he actually does for us yesterday.
Yeah, I'd agree. It basically looked like the Nathaniel Klein we all knew existed 2-3 years ago. There's very, very solid defender in there. Like in terms of defensive fullbacks, there are not many better than him. But then you also saw there's some limitations to him, but that's fine. He's basically our third choice right back. Paul was saying this last night. We were talking about him last night, and then but he's our third choice left back technically. So who else has got a third choice left back that good? Right back rather. Yeah, sorry. Who else has got that?
Yeah,
no one else
he puts a bit of a duff ball in at one point, doesn't he? Which is like, you're not quite sure what he's trying to do. I think it's just a bit kind of.
I also heard your Lacing Lovren shot on the pinky elbow as well.
Oh yeah, he did have one.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you're just like, mate, you're playing right back. If you could do that,
maybe just didn't know when he was going to play again. That's just like, I'll try and kick it.
Probably fair, yeah.
I think another part of that, I think that shot actually is, I think he was shattered. I think he really managed himself through the game brilliantly. He's got no match fitness at all.
There was a period about 65-70 when I
thought he was going again in the first half.
He was breathing. Let's put it that way.
I mean, well, I think we make more allowances for someone a bit more fashionable, though, if you know what I mean. So if like Trent had been out for 12 months or something, I think you go, he was fine for.
I just gave him 10 out of 10.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like he's obviously not at his own level either, though. So for him to come into that fixture and perform that well, and yeah, of course he's going to be tired. I think that's to be expected. But as I said to Phil last night, it was like no one's in that privileged position where they can call on someone who was one of England's top right backs 2 or 3 years ago. Or
there used to be a serious debate about whether it'd be him or
Kyle
Walker playing for England.
Yeah, 100%. And that sort of shows how far we've come. But I think I think you see in him. We had that game recently where it was like the old fashioned. Was it Mourinho and was it Klein again that played in that
Chelsea.
game?
It's Chelsea League Cup.
It's like that sort of blast from the past, and no one wanted it, and you go, wow, this is how far we've progressed. And him in isolation maybe makes that stand out a bit, but I thought he did fine.
But I think there's something on that, Paul. I'm going to bring you in a second, but I think there's something in that where we often do that after League Cup games, but they don't get to play with all the good lads.
No.
So suddenly he's back with Sadio Mane in front of him, who I thought, by the way, really enjoyed himself at times on that right-hand side. Like, you know, have a little look at this. And also, you got the impression United were going, well, hang on, we were going to have Rashford cheating and hanging up there, but now you've got Klein on the overlap around Mane. Well, someone's got to come and help me here. Yeah. And I thought all of that was a real sort of, they're just trying to do whatever they can to get through the game, whereas we've got a number of different options at our disposal, and that's an example of that.
Yeah, you say Mane's having a good time. It's because he can probably trust the defensive work of Nathaniel Klein, and as much of as a Trent fan as I am, sometimes I think we have to make considerations for his limitations at fullbacks, and I think he's going to be one of the world's best fullbacks in time. But there is games where he's been roasted, Trent, and I don't think you're gonna see that of Nathaniel Klein. So maybe that might be something to do with Mane enjoying himself for the day. I don't know, but I think in the circumstances, and Liverpool sort of scratching around the bottom of what they've got in terms of available defenders, it means there's no panic, and that's a good thing.
But he's got some aches in his legs today.
Oh my word! You know what though? I mean, he deserves all the credit, because to come in and deliver a performance of that level, given he's had such little game time, it says a lot about the lad. And I mean, you know, you talk about some of Trent's kind of issues defensively. I mean, it was only kind of, you know, at Old Trafford last season where he really does suffer at the hands of Marcus Rashford. And Klein himself has had some pretty tough times against United. You think of that Martial game where he really does turn him inside out. So he could have been coming into that game thinking, this is going to be a really tough test.
Rashford tries to meg him first 15-20 minutes, tries to get a bit out of him. Like, I think Rashford's gone, I fancy me here against a fella who's not played for 2 years. And Klein puts him in his pocket really, really early. And as Ian says, in the game at Old Trafford, he got tons of change out of Trent. And I think Trent's a fault for one of the goals, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And I think from that, I think Rashford was pretty quiet.
Well, I think a lot of it's down to not what I expect, and that's in every sense. You know, Ashley Young does not expect to face Mane. When they've been looking at the DVDs and the tapes, that's not been coming up. Or, you know, same with Rashford. He probably doesn't expect to face Klein. It was a surprise for everyone when the rumour came out on the day. And there is something in every now and again being able to throw a surprise. If you do it all the time, you end up maybe surprising your own players a bit too much. But it's fair to say on that one, you know, they really have sort of surprised Manchester United, I think.
No, absolutely, and I think on the Klein thing as well. Sometimes when players are out, people talk about them being better players than they actually are. But in the Klein case, it's been the opposite, really. And I think some of the stick he's taken's been a bit unfair. I get the talk around the team's maybe progressed past him a little bit because you see Trent and all the attacking flair he's got. But actually, you do need different things in your squad. You know, if Man City lose Benjamin Mendy, they haven't got a Benjamin Mendy replacement lined up. Fabian Delph comes in and offers you something totally different, but you see Leroy Sané play more because he gives more width and Mendy's obviously not there. So Nathaniel Klein's been the forgotten man, and maybe he decides to move on because he's not going to get enough game time and he's kind of entering the peak he is. But if you're Jurgen Klopp, you want to keep him around the place because he offers you something different. And as Paul said before, defensively, he's been one of the best fullbacks in the league. Yes, he can't quite give you that thrust and guile going forward, but there's lots to be kind of thankful for with Nathaniel Klein from a defensive point of view.
Bet you there was a couple of Premier League managers on the phone to the chairmans last night looking at Klein, because I think he's that forgotten that people probably forgot he existed. And there'll be, like we were talking about Everton last night, Everton are crying out for a right back. They could do a lot worse than them, a lot worse. But I'm with Ian, I wouldn't be letting them go until the summer.
I mean, the weird thing was, like, when you're looking at who he's been linked with, it was Cardiff who were in for him. He's better than Cardiff.
Fulham as well, and Fulham
way better than both of these.
I think there's something in. I think there's something in the idea that maybe now they do choose to go on with him, John, a little bit. I think it's difficult. It's difficult for the manager. It'll also be difficult for the player. That the player, you know, let's be fair to him, he's really stood up and been counted for us here. But does he really want to spend the next, thinking I might get five league appearances between now and the end of the season until after these other lads come back max? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not a great sort of position he finds himself in, and so he might be having Paul talking there about people, clubs on the phone and things like that. Is he having a meeting with his agent today and saying, well,
it's a great shop window performance, isn't it?
And so is he doing that? He may well do. He might decide that, like Phil's saying, maybe them clubs, do fancy them or kind of hold out for something better. I don't know what his contract situation is like, but obviously the longer it goes in, the better his position becomes in a certain way. I'll be looking to keep him till the end of the season because, when you talk about the type of money you're likely to get for him in the grand scheme of things, you'd much rather kind of have him about. He's proved he can come in cold and put in a good performance, like everyone said, and so I don't really see the benefit to Liverpool in kind of moving him on. And I think for a few of them, I was just thinking as well, like, things are going so well. It's proof that he's only a couple of injuries away from suddenly starting, and I think that's what a few of them got their eye on that. I think Mignolet's probably doing it. Probably thinking, well, this fella's well better than me, but he might be out for a month in May, and then suddenly I'm playing in a final. And so, and so that's. I think that's that. But when clubs are going well,
I can't believe Phil's just been sick.
I just need to tip that bottle of water over my head.
But I think, what I mean is, I think when things are going well, I think people will just hang around just to kind of see what happens, really.
Try and get 5 games, get a title medal, John.
Being around, if you're a footballer, you want to be around this football team at the minute, don't you? You're not. It's got what.
Sturridge said this, didn't he?
What are you walking away to? What are you walking away to? If you're one of the better players, fair enough. You could possibly go to like a European superpower, and that is fair enough. Like, I would rather they didn't, and I think we should be fighting to keep our players like that. But you can kind of see why a player would want to leave for that. Whereas if you're one of the sort of the squad players, you can go and play like 38 games a season for Southampton. Is Danny Ings now sat there going, Southampton, right? He scored twice yesterday, and he's probably made up to score twice. But is he, in the back of his mind, he's surely looking at Liverpool and going, I'd probably rather be involved in that,
I think them Sturridge quotes from when he came back in the summer sort of sums up the environment that everyone's enjoying playing football. And, he goes, I go to West Brom, and you go, wow. I remember just how good it is at Liverpool, and you see the sort of attitude change, and you see the sort of his whole demeanour, like, I'm going to make this work, because don't send me back there. Whatever you do not send me, put me in that scenario again. Maybe for the likes of Klein or Mignolet and the like of them lads, they go, I don't want to be going to Cardiff. What a drop that is from playing with Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, just the whole buzz around the club. I'd much rather be a now and again lad for them rather than an every week lad for the likes of Cardiff.
The left back was praised by Jose Mourinho post-match, interestingly, and one of the reasons why it's interesting is I can't believe Ian the space they gave him second half. They basically just gave him the run of the gaff, the whole flank second half. He was absolutely terrific.
I lost count, Neil, about in terms of the amount of times they allowed him to run 30-40 yards with the ball. I think Mourinho won't be the only one in terms of opposition managers who will have been impressed with Robertson this season. He was outstanding. It's not just the energy levels, because that's doing a bit of a disservice. It's he picks his moments so well of when to go. He knows exactly when to go and when to hold, and that's not by accident. He knows exactly what he's doing in that position now. He's such a threat for us in terms of giving us width, giving a good delivery in as well. I think maybe his corners weren't great yesterday, if you want to kind of nitpick a little bit.
They were crap.
But apart
I think you
from
can
that,
probably go way further than crap.
His performance was outstanding, and I think you see just what a calming influence he is in that back forward as well, because there's a piece of play that leads to the second goal.
He's involved in the second goal twice.
And Alisson's involved, Fabinho's involved, and Robertson plays a lovely little round the corner ball with his right foot, which gets us on the front foot again from a midfield perspective. So, you're starting to run out of things to say about Andy Robertson, but there's now no doubt in my mind we have the best left back in the league, and there may have been a conversation around Benjamin Mendy at one point because of what he gives you from an attacking point of view, and then you forget that Benjamin Mendy can't defend a lot of the time and gets exposed and is always injured. Andy Robertson, he's never injured.
I think
he never lets you down.
He
never lets you down defensively, and going forward, he's such a threat.
It's funny game because you talk about width, that he obviously does give you width, but the amount of times he was running central in that game as well, he was really impressive, and he seems to have added that to his game in that he's almost an extra kind of attacking midfielder now, as well as this threat down the left. So we know he can bomb down there, we know his delivery's good, but 3 or 4 times he was he'd shimmy and cut inside, and then he'd be running, and the pitch would seem to be open up for him, and he was picking passes well, and his confidence has grown unbelievable over the last sort of year or so, and now I think I think at first he was thinking to himself, "I'll get in the team and do my job and be solid." And I think now he's seeing himself as a key player in this team. He's seeing himself as, he's got that assist competition with Trent, which is really nice, and sort of, because Trent backs himself as well, doesn't he? But he's not just. He's not just being like an outlet. He's not just being, I'll be the ball over here, I'll stretch the pitch. He's getting involved in attacking play. And as I say, seeing him kind of bursting through there midfield, like, I don't know, like Janino or something back in the day was brilliant to watch. Early Janino shout.
I think he's a great advert for the manager and his ability to develop a footballer. Because if you go back and think what he was like initially, there was a lot of his main attacking ploy was head down, get down the wing, put a cross in, and not necessarily I know where these lads are in the box, just put a ball in the box and hope for the best. Whereas now he's going inside and outside, he's moving the ball through the midfield. It's not just about get down that line, put a cross in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can say about him really. He's so good every week, and that's the thing with him, is like there's no performance drop from him. And there was a period where I wondered, do you know, as we were getting better and better and we were starting to introduce Alissons and Van Dijks and the likes of the team, whether, in a team full of superstars, is he gonna have that level of quality where he can raise his game again, or is he one of them lads who's come to Liverpool and he's absolutely given it his all, and it's shown in his effort and his commitment and stuff like that, and that's bringing him up to be a sort of 7 out of 10 defender, and that's where he is, alongside absolute worldie. But no, he's found so much more ability.
He's an absolute worldie.
He's an absolute worldie, and maybe that's just because of where we got him from and the transfer fee and stuff, that I had them sort of things in my mind. I'm absolutely wrong to have ever thought that about him, but he keeps raising his game, and I'll give credit to Van Dijk all the time. I'm sure it really helps that he can go, and if anything goes down that left hand side, Van Dijk's gonna deal with it. But I think the point about him coming inside and acting a bit more like an attacking mid is true, because fullbacks, and you see with Klein, they love chalking the boots, or they're happy to go around a fullback, but to come in central and have so much influence,
but there's a flip side.
So impressive.
Paul, there's a flip side to the Van Dijk points, that if I'm Van Dijk and I'm watching the video back of the game, the hug I'm giving out is the Andy Robertson covering header.
Yeah,
from when Fellaini's there back
post. That was definitely a goal, by the way.
Yeah, because
there's no way he's missing that.
There's no way he's missing that. But also, all of our other lads have got themselves a bit at sea. They're all. I'm not. There's knock-on effects and all that sort of stuff, and I'm not sort of balling anyone out here. But they've opened us up. That's where they are. Van Dijk ends up where he is, which is nowhere near where the action is, where the fella who's 6'5" is, which is where you would think you'd want Van Dijk. Yeah. And there's Robertson to save the day.
Absolutely, and he switched on, and I might sound a bit disingenuous saying that, what I was saying about Van Dijk. I think it's meant to be a compliment to both of them.
Yeah, of course, because they help each other massively.
Absolutely, but yeah, I mean, this is what you're getting, and this is exactly my point, I suppose, about him just raising it and being everywhere at the right time, and the sort of in an attacking sense it's true, but also defensively. There's been a lot of times this season where he's last stitch pulled us out, and he does it again yesterday.
One of the reasons why he started to, I think, be able to be more direct, more central, Ian, is the substitution for Shaqiri, which may sound counterintuitive, that effectively changing your right midfielder changes what your left back does. But when Shaqiri comes on, it means the manager's able to shuffle his pack again. Mane goes back over to the left. Now you've got Robertson and Mane back in tandem with one another, and then Shaqiri himself, fluidity, absolutely full of sense, and gets the two winning goals.
I mean, Shaqiri's introduction, unbelievable really in such a big game of football. But I think what was really interesting was the comments he made about how he watched the game from the sidelines. And you see so many players who they don't look like they're paying any attention to what's going on the pitch. They're messing about, they're talking to each other. But he says that he spotted pockets that he could go in and really affect that football match, and that's what he does. And as you said there, Neil, he's kind of like a little bottle of pop, and he comes on, he's just like fizzing all over the place, and he's always involved, but everything's with purpose. He wants to do everything with purpose. There's a reason for everything that he does on that pitch, and I thought he was great. And I was probably more in more in Neil's camp in the summer when we spoke about Shaqiri, and it was not because I didn't think he was a good footballer. I just thought that maybe Liverpool could have been shopping at maybe a slightly higher end of the market, and maybe Shaqiri's your fifth lad as opposed to maybe your fourth one. But my God, he's proven an awful lot of people wrong, and he looks like a player who came into this football club with a point to prove, because there were doubters, there was previous teammates doubting him, there was pundits doubting him, but you can tell he's the kind of fellow who doesn't doubt himself. He knows he's got loads and loads of ability, and I think he's found a club that show appreciation with a set of fans that love a bit of a maverick, and he's got that in him. He is a little bit of a maverick, but with that maverickness, he's also got tons and tons of ability to come on and change a football match, and you would expect he'll play a really, really big part in Liverpool's campaign this season.
What does he do that you think he didn't? He wasn't.
It's all the sense.
Yeah,
it's all the sense. I can't. I'm
agree with that as well.
What I'm stunned by is I think there hasn't been a performance from him where he hasn't thought his way through the game. And when you used to watch him, when he used to come to Anfield, it was the absolute opposite. Like, it used to just be, I'll just get it and I'll just run and we'll just sort something out.
Do you think that's the surroundings though?
I think it's partially the surroundings, I think it's the players, but I think he's probably obviously always added in him to some degree, and obviously he's now enjoying himself and bringing it out, but it's the sense. I mean, that's why every single time I write about him or talk about him, the first thing I'm doing is saying that he's, I'll give you a really good example. There's a game, I think in the one where, what's the game I'm thinking of? There's a game where he has a daft shot, and then within 2 minutes later he put Sturridge through. But when he had the daft shot, he was livid with himself for having the daft shot, not for missing it, but like, come on, like, you've let yourself down there. You've been doing this other stuff, and now suddenly you've done that. No. And I can't remember, it was one of the league games, I can't remember which one it was, but he was cross with himself. And I remember watching that and thinking,
Southampton.
Might have been Southampton. But I just think he's absolutely full of sense. And I think I take the Maverick point, and he's got a bit of that, and he's a bit the celebration and all that sort of stuff. But as Mavericks go, I mean, trust me, I've seen Titi Kamara, and this is nowhere near as maverick as that. He sees himself, he sees exactly how he clicks in to that team unit, and I think that's what's most impressive about him. He sees exactly where he should be in relation to Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mo Salah. At times, I think he sees it better than they do.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you sort of said that, Neil, to be honest, because I think when he's a substitute, I think he's watching that game as intensely as the coaches, and he's because when he comes on, I've never seen someone pick up the pockets of space that exist in the game quite like he does. It's almost like he's going, right, when I get on here, I'm going to do this because I can see all these weaknesses, and it makes you wonder whether he's going to be a coach or something one day, because there's a lot of our best footballers, and I think when they come off the bench, they're not very good. And there's impact substitutes, but it's normally like you're adding pace into a game, which someone's really direct, but he's really clever, and that's the difference. It's like I thought he was an all-round good player when we signed him in the summer. I sort of got your point, and I sort of got, well, he was an exciting attacking addition who was a Premier League club's best player, so I sort of got on board with it.
I've enjoyed how exciting he isn't, if you sort of see what I mean.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I think I just can't believe how intelligent he is, because the footballers who just like, for example, Dejan Lovren, when he does that shot, that's him losing his head. That's him going, I've got nothing else on, and I'm going to back myself to have a go. Whereas he's now coming on, and I just watched last night when I got in, just tried to watch him, and he's constantly in acres of space, but then he's all 1 and 2 touch. So I think it's the second goal. The ball comes to him from centre half. He then moves into another pocket of space. He does a 1-2, and then he gets the goal. But he's all over the place. It's unbelievable the level he's playing at. He's
got a phenomenal touch, but I mean, you expect him to have a good touch given the position he plays on the pitch, but his touch is unreal. And then you kind of couple that with the fact that he's got such a range of passing, and you do see other lads, you can tell the other players trust him because they suddenly start to move when he gets the ball. They know that there's a very, very good chance that he delivers on a play for them, and he's been an absolute joy to watch.
I think you see in his celebrations as well, though, that he backs himself, doesn't he? He knows he's mustered technically. You can probably imagine in every academy he's been through, or every football club, he's the one that in training that takes all the free kicks and pings them, and that sort of stuff. They go, we're going to do a crossbar challenge, and he hits it 4 times out of 5 or something. So you know that technically he's able, but I think I don't know whether we need to give a bit of credit to the manager for sort of reining him in a bit. But he's unbelievable.
John then Phil.
He's a great sub, and I know he won't necessarily want to be that, but he is a great option on there. He just, his impact is, it's like when Ian Ryan walks in the room and he's like, right, the boys, how are we? And then gives everyone a lift. That was basically what he did yesterday. He came on, he said, all right, the boys, how are we? Don't worry, I'll box this. He boxed it. He benched someone. No, but you know what I mean? Some people just have that, don't they? Whereas other people come into the room and you only notice that they're there sort of 5 minutes later. Whereas the likes of Ian Ryan and Shaqiri, like, they're giving you that energy.
Nice thing anyone's ever said.
But it's great. But also as well, I think sometimes I think the hardest games to come onto when it's absolutely lashing down, and I think weather obviously affects a football game, but I think you can sort of get to grips with it, and then you sort of forget it's there. Whereas if you're just sat there on the bench in your big coat, going, seats are warm, and then suddenly some fella's asking you to go on and just sort it all, and you're like, oh, I want to do me all right, the boys, how are we thing, but it's like I'd also like to just have a nice sit here, but he's being thrown on, and I think to get to the speed of the game and to get to the speed of the ball and to have everything he did and to have the impact he did, it was phenomenal, and it was it made up for him because he's deserved it.
You're going to be playing this around your Christmas dinner, aren't you? Yeah, watch this.
There's definitely a thing with him where he knows that his teammates are good, because I think the more I think about him at Stoke and all the frustrations you had with him, it's because he's looking at his teammates and going, I'm really good, you're all terrible, I'm going to have to try and do this on my own. And he doesn't need to do that anymore. So he can just look at Sadio Mane and go, you're
he's
good,
not
you
looking
can
to
do
bit
that.
Mane
You're Salah, you're exactly, yeah.
What's interesting about the goal, the first one, is he comes from really deep.
Yeah.
Like he's gone and he's almost a spectator to events, and I mean that in the best possible sense, in that he's almost...
He takes it off Nathaniel Klein's toe, basically, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's from so deep, but he really is. He's about 30 yards from goal when Mane breaks through, and then he begins to come alive, and then suddenly he goes, no, this is where this is going to be, and then he's there for it. But what I think's impressive is it's not this idea that he didn't even feel then, he's been really involved, but he didn't feel like he had to be racing into the box to hit the penalty spot because, for God's sake, no one else is going to score this but me. He's probably thinking, Salah's about to tap this in. You know what I mean?
He's looking at them going, you're all really good, I don't need to do this on my own. And it makes his task easier, because he's able to play his game as opposed to the game of about 5 players, which is
that's
what he
why
was
he'll
having
pass
to
instead of
Stoke.
shoot,
Exactly.
and that's...
Exactly, because it was weird, like, on a complete tangent about, because both his goals were basically shots from outside. Well, the third one was from outside the box. It felt like we had a lot more shots from outside the box yesterday. Like, phenomenally so.
I think it was something like 70% of the 36 were outside the box. Yeah.
Which was obviously a deliberate ploy, but I don't really know why.
I'm
intrigued as to why this is.
I've already done a review, but on review, Andy mentions that a couple of weeks back, and then Sean builds on that. Milner said after Burnley that the manager had said when you come up against a low block defence, there's nothing wrong with having a bit more of a pop. I think Sean also says he probably doesn't mean Dejan Lovren and Nathaniel Klein. And he probably,
there was a bad Fabinho one in the first half.
There was 2 or 3 awful. Even the one that stings the palms of De Gea's fucking crap and needs to be put in a box. All shots are bad. Let's really remember that point. It's one to write in the back of your hand. But there's a few where you are a bit like, what's going on? I think the manager means 22 yards, lads. I don't think he means 28, and I think
that's
probably
doesn't mean full-backs and centre-backs. Exactly.
I think he means 22 yards. If you're getting around, I mean, even I, as an absolute, Scrooge about the matter, I'm fine with you having a shot from inside the D. Outside the D, you need to get a permit signed off by Jurgen Klopp and me. You need to find a way to get that sorted. If you want an outside the D, outside the box shot, playing for Liverpool, which isn't going to lead to me throwing my gloves on the floor in sheer frustration and anger, and don't think you get away with it even if you fucking score. Those ones are worse.
I reckon if that Lovren shot goes in, I would have just sat down emotionless.
Honestly, I wouldn't have done that.
Because that means you'll get to see it again.
Yeah, all the time. Nothing encourages a shot more than a goal.
Phil's getting off quicker than me at the final whistle when we win the league.
We'll come on to talking about winning the league in a minute. First and foremost, though, we're going to crack on with the draw. Bayern Munich then, lads. We haven't talked about how good Firmino was, but that can be found elsewhere. Firmino was absolutely brilliant against Manchester United and really showed he's getting to grips with that position. I just want to tick that box. Champions League draw. Bayern Munich. Exciting in all senses, Paul Senior.
Yeah, really exciting. One because they're quite old.
They are quite old.
They are quite old.
I thought you meant like historically, like you've been around a long time. I was like, well,
it's a
senior won't take anyone seriously unless they start in the 19th century.
He's not having PSG.
Paris Saint-Germain, yeah. No, I only want teams steeped in history. No, no. Honestly, this for me is a good draw because I think we're better than them, but I think they're so experienced in the Champions League that they're going to be a real test for us. But I think if we perform, we can win. And they're not flying, but don't think they're rubbish.
And also, as Phil Blundell pointed out on our immediate reaction show for subscribers, the game's in 3 months.
Yes.
So God knows what form they're going to be in then.
A lot could change. I mean, the new manager, Niko Kovac, is changing things at Munich, and it's a job that's needed doing for a while because they're old. It's like taking on that Milan side after Ancelotti, for example, you know. But they have got good players, so you sort of familiarise yourself with the team because it hasn't changed in about 50 years. But the lads that were young and coming through, Kimmich's, Nicolas Sula, Gnabry, who they get from Arsenal, they're now regular starters and they're starting to have an impact. Kimmich is really good. But then they've also got one of Boateng and Hummels, a centre-half. Manuel Neuer's still there, Lewandowski's still there. Kingsley Coman's young. Yeah, the midfield is what worries me a little bit. Thiago's really, really good. They left Fidalgo in the summer. Who's the guy next to him? It's completely slipped my mind.
Martinez.
Yeah, Javi Martinez or Kimmich can come into the middle, and then Rafinha can go right back. They've still got a big squad and a lot about them, and as you say, the game is in a fair bit of time, and you could be looking at Borussia Dortmund and go, they're 9 points clear, and Bayern are in third. I wouldn't overly celebrate it. It's not game over in
well, just on that one,
terms.
dead quick, Phil, is let's actually hypothetically say, well, what if it is a bit close to game over in domestic terms? That's actually counterproductive. That you almost need them to have something to be hanging on for, Munich, in terms of, in the same way that we hope this is happening whilst we're chasing down a title, we could almost do with them being in a similar-ish position.
Yeah, you don't want them to be in a position whereby all their eggs can go in the basket of beating us, and if they don't beat us, that's their season done. Because that is a horrible prospect. I think we said in the reaction show that Barcelona have got that situation with Lyon, because Lyon can't win the league. Yeah. But Lyon's sole reason for existence now this season is playing Barcelona, and if that happens to us with Bayern Munich, with the quality of the players that Bayern Munich have got, it's not ideal.
What's nice though, John, is it's Bayern Munich. It is all the history. It is the fact that we all get to go to Munich. We all get to have a fantastic time.
Yeah, it's a new one as well, isn't it? New chip for a lot of people. It's a mouth-watering tie. One that just gets you excited, doesn't it? Liverpool playing Bayern Munich. We said before in the subscriber show, feels like the tide of round, and yeah, that's where Liverpool should be. Liverpool should be the team on kind of everyone's lips, and the team everyone kind of wants to watch. It's going to be a brilliant game. 2 games. I'm looking forward to hosting them at Anfield. Hopefully we can get a good lead, take that over there, and then do the business. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of Scousers drinking Steins in Munich that week, I would imagine. Like, it's going to be good fun.
Sorry, Neil, I was just going to say the winter break as well is something to consider there. You know, they finish just before Christmas and they're not back until the 18th of January. I was just having a look there. So that can change things. You know, it can halt any momentum that one side's got. It can increase momentum of the others. But I think Bayern's one that's always been sort of on my radar as a trip, as a sort of match goer. And also one that we've never really, I don't think we've had them before, not in my lifetime that I can remember. So it's a really interesting one. But also I think Jurgen Klopp, if you've really got to measure him into this, I think he'll put his life's work into beating Bayern, honestly.
I mean, I'd agree with that. I think in terms of the draw, if you wanted the easiest tie, then Porto's probably the one that people were looking at. I'm a man that holds a grudge as well, so I wanted those pricks from Madrid, if I'm honest, just to put them out. But there's always the next round for that. But I think in terms of a glamour side, the boys are right. I mean, to go and play Bayern Munich, it's one that is going to kind of get you excited. I think Paul's right to reference the manager. I mean, he doesn't need any extra motivation, but the fact that it is Bayern
talks about them in press conferences now
makes it very, very interesting. And as the boys have said, it's a great pint as well. But the other way, they're going to be in 3 months' time. But as it stands right now, they've not been great. They're 9 points off Dortmund. They've lost 3 already. There's a lot of talk about Kovac not actually being there. If the form doesn't kind of start to improve. But it's one to certainly make you think, you know, it would have been such a shame for Liverpool not to be in this stage. You know, if you kind of the draw goes on this morning, you're not in it, you'd have been thinking, what if? But we're right in the mix again. You certainly wouldn't bet against Liverpool progressing to the quarters.
All right, Liverpool are top of the league. It's really important to acknowledge, Phil, that this is next level stuff from Liverpool. I wrote in my match review, this is beyond Championship form, but also the situation means we're beyond being able to say that Liverpool are almost certainly going to be champions, and that's what's almost, in one sense, not fair about it, but it's almost what's driving us on as well, is the intensity of the Manchester City challenge. But this is beyond, when you say a side's in Championship form, you don't mean this is the next level up from that. This is
ridiculous. This is best team ever territory. This isn't sort of, we're going at the team, we'll win a bog standard league, get 85, 90 points. This is a 100-point pace we're going, and it's not like we're 5-10 games in. But we're basically 10 days away from having half the season done. And the next 2 games are games we should win. And we could be, what we on? We'll be on 45 now.
We'd be on 51. We'd be on 51 at the turn.
51 out of 57. That's outrageous.
I think we've qualified for Champions Leagues on 62.
Well, if we win on Friday, we've doubled Everton's points tally. Everton are in 8th, doing perfectly 8th, 9th, whatever, with a perfectly fine points tally for the time of year, and we've got double what they've got.
The last time Liverpool in the league, they win it with 78 points in a 38-game season. It shows how far it's come.
It's mad, and we should be able to be enjoying this more. You know, one of the best teams ever, I think, in the Premier League's the 05-06 Chelsea side, and they go at a very, very similar rate, and there's something like 18 points clear by this point.
What did they have from 19? Was it 52 or something?
Yeah, they had. I think they were
2
played.
draws, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think they were 1 draw, 1 defeat. So I think they were 1 17 draw and 1. So that's 52.
Yeah, sensational. So, but what we should be able to enjoy this more, but because we should be 12, 15 points clear in any other season.
It could be worse though. You could be Tottenham.
Well, yeah.
I was about to say, no, fair play to Tottenham.
As well.
They're not going away, but I mean, if you're them, you're looking at it going, lads, we've won 13 games out of 17 here, and we've basically got no chance of winning the title.
They should be top of the league. They should be top of the league, and the same way that Manchester City should be top of the league. Yeah. It just shows what we're doing. It's unbelievable.
Arsenal and Chelsea should be in the mix.
Yeah,
from where they are, and they're nowhere near.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, it's a bit of a case of destiny awaits here, because if you think about Liverpool's greatest ever teams, and people always talk about the 78-79 team or the 87-88 team, who go and amass a great points total, you know, Jurgen Klopp and the lads will only be too aware of that. If they go and win the league this season, they'll be talked about forever. They're going to go down as absolute legends of this football club, and it could easily be one of the greatest sides that this club's ever produced. And you know, we're a long way from that, because the context is you've got to go and win the league title. But they'll only be too aware. Everyone's got an ego. Everyone will know if they manage to pull this off, then they will be talked about for 100 years. You know what I mean? They will go down as unbelievable legends of this football club, and they've got one hell of a chance, because we are talking about a phenomenal football team in Liverpool.
We were talking about Manchester City last season getting 100 points, and now no one would ever get near that again. The way the season's going, you could have 2 teams on 100 points, and that's absolutely insane to think that, you know, if Liverpool and City keep going, I think what would it be, something like 99 and 101 at the current rate of what they're going. What
about losing it on 99?
Absolute joke.
I think I prefer that than less points, you know. Would you not prefer that than lose it on like 85? Because if it's 85, you can basically go.
No, I'm talking about City, where we're in it.
Well,
I'm safe for them.
All right, fair enough. I mean, that's entire. Yeah, fuck them. Fair enough. Fair play.
Yeah, I'm just feeling a bit bad for them.
Yeah, that's absolutely
fine. They get 99 and come
second.
It's a
shame for them, mate.
tough gig.
Unlucky pair.
It'll be hard to swallow for them, won't it, John?
Well, yeah, it'll be tough for them, but you know they might win the Champions League, so
yeah.
And they won't enjoy that either. So
well. They'll have their own time.
They're like a punishment for them.
Yeah. Gotta go to this final, have we?
We got 99 points and win the league, and we won the Champions League. Oh.
Booing Dua Lipa.
They're lifting the trophy, throwing things at their own counter.
All right then. It's been a fantastic show. I hope you've really enjoyed listening to it. Liverpool are indeed top of the pops right now, and they have one win against Wolves to do, which will be a really tough game, by the way. Could be tougher than Manchester United at home. One win against Wolves, and that will mean that the top on Christmas Day with 48 points.
Top of the league roast potatoes.
Top of the league roast potatoes. Top of the league sprouts. It's the championship turkey, etc.
That's some top of the league parsnips there. Look. You do everyone's head in.
All the way through. Every toast is to a championship season. Yeah, every single one. Your mum's desperate to say something about Christmas now. It's to a championship season, this. That's what we're moving on. This is what we're about.
Top of the league in blankets there, Mum.
Thank you very much indeed to Ian Ryan, otherwise known as that prick who holds a grudge. To Phil Blundell, to John Gibbons, who's part feather boa and part boa constrictor, and to Paul Senior. Everyone's had an absolutely fantastic time indeed. How can you not? Liverpool are the business. They've cruised to victory against Manchester United, dismissed them out of will in association with RedsBet. That has been your Anfield Wrap this week. The Reds are very much on the march.